It's no secret that England are blessed with some decent players at the moment. Recently I have made videos taking a look at England's best players at right back and in attacking midfield, but they aren't the only two positions in which Gareth Southgate is blessed with considerable depth. Recently I have been planning a video which was going to be a countdown of who I think are England's 7 best uncapped players at this moment in time. But then I spotted a suggestion from Akash on Twitter who wanted me to put together an uncapped 11. And since there were lots of candidates, that made more sense to me. It was also quite an interesting video to put together, since I think it shows the areas in which England have a plethora of quality options, and the positions where they are perhaps lacking a little. As well as the 11, I've picked a bench and squad at the end, so stick around for that if you don't get sick of the sound of my voice, and without further ado, here is what I think is England's best uncapped 11. Goalkeeper, Karl Darlow. If I'd made this 11 last season, I might have gone with Aaron Ramsdale in goal. Well, I'd actually have gone with Dean Henderson, since he was yet to win his first cap last season, but you know what I mean. Anyhow, Ramsdale has had a pretty rough time of things since returning to Sheffield United, meanwhile Karl Darlow has caught the eye on more than one occasion at St James's Park. As a big fan of Martin Dubravka, I must admit that I worried for Newcastle when he was ruled out due to an injury to his heel, but Darlow has really stepped up to the plate. The 30-year-old native of Northamptonshire has been one of Steve Bruce's standout players this season, in a Magpie side that faces no lack of rearguard action. An agile and alert shot stopper, Darlow is actually eligible to represent Wales as well as England, but he has twice turned down call-ups from the Welsh national team, once in 2013 and once in 2018. Right back, Aaron Wan-Bissaka. There's no other way of putting it, this was by far the toughest selection in this entire 11, and it's no exaggeration to say that there are 5 or 6 really decent candidates. They include the likes of Tariq Lamptey, James Tavernier, Matty Cash, Max Aarons, Luke Ayling, Matt Lowton, James Justin, Kyle Walker-Peters, George Baldock. I really could go on. Lamptey, Tavernier and Cash stand out, but ultimately I can't overlook Aaron Wan-Bissaka. The Manchester United stalwart would have been a nailed-on starter for England for most of the last decade, but he broke through at a time of remarkable competition in his position. He is still, in many people's eyes, the most accomplished English right-back in solely defensive terms. And we have seen, in recent weeks, that the 23-year-old is obviously putting plenty of effort into improving the offensive side of his game as well. He has been called up by Gareth Southgate in the past, but had to pull out of his squad through injury. And as things stand, he could also represent the Democratic Republic of Congo. Centre-back, Ezri Konsa. Aston Villa have a really strong looking backline this season, which has been further reinforced by the arrival of Emi Martinez, who has begun his time at Villa Park just as he had left off at Arsenal. Although Ezri Konsa's Villa teammate Tyrone Mings has won 7 caps for England, whilst he has won none, I actually think that Konsa is the better centre-back, and the 23-year-old certainly has the higher ceiling. Formerly of Charlton and Brentford, Konsa is a really well-rounded centre-back. He's quick, he has an excellent positional sense for a man of his age, and his experience at both right-back and indeed in holding midfield means he's a much more capable ball player than a lot of other centre-backs. He was actually my first choice centre-back for this 11, despite coming from a crowded field, and I don't think that it'll be long before he wins his first cap. If Gareth Southgate waits too long, Konsa could accept a call-up from DR Congo, Angola or Portugal. Centre-back, Ben White. I've gone with a back 3 due to England's excellent depth in terms of uncapped centre-backs, and in the sweeper role, my choice is Ben White. Also aged 23, also experienced at playing in holding midfield, and also a pretty elegant ball-playing centre-back, there is a lot to like about Ben White. He shot to fame last season whilst on loan at Leeds United, and despite having a wealth of options themselves at centre-back, Brighton appeared to be unwilling to sell him to Leeds at any price. That stubbornness presumably came with assurances to the player himself, and White has become a key man under Graham Potter this season. Though he is often applauded for his technical prowess, White is also dogged in his defensive duties and rarely shirks a challenge. And much like Konsa, I suspect he will win a cap before long. Centre-back, Adam Webster. The last of our 3 centre-backs, and also by far the toughest to pick, as far as I was concerned, I plumped for Adam Webster following much deliberation. Some people were shocked when Brighton forked out potential £22 million on Webster off the back of a single season at Bristol City, but you can bet that the Seagulls would want at least twice that amount for him now. Despite being 6 foot 3 inches tall and fantastic in the air, like all of the centre-backs that I picked, Webster is comfortable with the ball at his feet. In fact, the 26-year-old has apparently carried the ball into the final third more times than any other centre-back in the Premier League this season. I think an England call-up will be tough for the big man, just given the presence of Konsa, White, and all the other capped England defenders like John Stones and Harry Maguire, but in the event of an injury crisis, it shows that England are well covered. Left back, James Justin. He may have missed out at right back, where there are about 5,000 different candidates, but it's slightly slimmer pickings at left back, where I think Justin is the obvious choice. Signed by Leicester City from Luton Town in the summer of 2019, Justin is primarily a right back, though it is at left back that he has played most of his football in the Premier League, and from what we've seen so far, he looks very comfortable there. Prior to his recent injury setback, Justin had been among the most eye-catching fullbacks in the league, and his injury came as a real blow to Brendan Rodgers. Quick and industrious, Justin will have to usurp the likes of Ben Chilwell and a resurgent Luke Shaw in order to get a game at left back for England, but I certainly don't think that's beyond him. Central/defensive midfield, Ashley Westwood. I think it would be fair to say that central and defensive midfield is probably the position with the least depth when it comes to uncapped English players right now, which is why I went for a back 3 or 5 with only one traditional central midfielder, very reminiscent of how England lined up under Gareth Southgate at the 2018 World Cup. There's little to split a handful of players, including the likes of Hamza Chowdhury and Tom Davies, but in the end, I went for Ashley Westwood. The former Villa man has been in fine form for Burnley in recent weeks, and he has created the 8th most chances of any Premier League player this season. It is a table that Westwood is familiar with performing well in, and the perennially underrated 30-year-old is a worthy inclusion in this 11, even if he has got about as much chance of actually getting capped by England at this stage as Asamoah Gyan. Attacking midfield, Eberechi Eze. Subscribers to this channel will know that I've essentially been acting as Eberechi Eze's second agent for the last couple of years, and yet I'm still waiting for my commission through the post following his transfer to Crystal Palace. Despite his inability to pay me for my outstanding promotional work, I still think he's a very good player, but most of all, I still think that he has plenty of room to improve. Aged 22, Eze has all the skill and technique to become a full international, though it would help if he played for a team with a little more adventure. Eze has played out wide on the left, as a number 10, and even a little deeper during his early years, and it's as a sort of makeshift 8-10 that he starts for me in this 11. Admittedly, this team would have more gaps in midfield than a block of Swiss cheese, but there is a back 5 with Ben White acting as a sweeper to compensate for that fact. Attacking midfield, Jarrod Bowen. Two players whose praises I've been singing for a very long time on this channel in quick succession. I think Jarrod Bowen and Eberechi Eze were the two best players in the Championship a little over a year ago, before Bowen left Hull City in a move to West Ham United. Accused of being average by many people at the time, I think Bowen has done a decent job of silencing his critics since arriving at the London Stadium. Though he's not the quickest, Bowen is good on the ball, great at resisting challenges, and he has a real wand of a left foot. He can play in a few different positions, but that left foot is best utilised when cutting back inside off the right flank. In ordinary times, he'd probably have won an England cap or two by now. At this moment in time, he'll probably have to hit 20 plus goals in a single season for the Hammers just to get a look in. Centre forward, Mikel Antonio. Sticking around at West Ham for now, Mikel Antonio is a man who is very unfortunate not to have been capped by England. Antonio has been called up by England twice, once by his old boss Sam Allardyce, and once by the current incumbent Gareth Southgate. First time around, Antonio was an unused substitute in Big Sam's only international in charge, and when he got the call-up from Southgate, he had to withdraw from the squad through injury. Antonio now faces stiff competition for a call-up from the likes of Harry Kane, Danny Ings, Dominic Calvert-Lewin, Tammy Abraham, Mason Greenwood, Callum Wilson and others, and England's options are just as strong, if not stronger, on the flanks. On the bright side, Antonio's misfortune makes him a great candidate for this 11. A tireless runner and fantastic athlete with an infectious appetite for the sport, the former non-league man is enjoying a real renaissance at West Ham under David Moyes. Age 30, I'd be surprised if he ever wins that elusive cap, but he could still play a key role for West Ham for many years to come. Centre forward, Ollie Watkins. Partnering Mikel Antonio up top is a man who I suspect is much more likely to win an England cap at some stage. Ollie Watkins has had a gradual but impressive ascent through the ranks of the English game for anyone who has been paying attention. His final season at Exeter City was so impressive that he won the EFL Young Player of the Year award, and I must admit that I'm surprised he never represented England at any youth level. A move to Brentford followed, where Watkins graduated from playing out wide to starring as the Bees' primary centre forward. He quickly became very adept at leading Brentford's line, becoming the Championship top scorer, and he makes the type of runs you'd expect of a born centre forward. Watkins doesn't have searing pace, he isn't staggeringly brilliant on the ball, and he isn't a powerful target man. But by the same token, he's no slouch, he's got a good first touch, and his heading technique is improving all the time. The point I'm trying to make is that Watkins is a well-rounded number 9, and he seems to have added the finishing touches to a talented Aston Villa side with 10 goals in 22 Premier League outings so far this term. Though competition is fierce, Watkins will win his first cap before long. That is my uncapped England 11, but since so many good players missed out, I decided to finish off an entire 23-man squad. As backup to Carl Darlow, I've plumped for Sam Johnson at West Bromwich Albion and Aaron Ramsdale at Sheffield United. The right-back position once again offers up far too much choice, but my pick is Tariq Lamptey, as Aaron Wan-Bissaka is very able and much more attack-minded deputy, and he is joined by further defensive reinforcements in the forms of Mason Holgate, Rob Holding and Ben Mee. As I have already said, there's little to split a plethora of centre-backs, but Holgate and Holding have impressed this season. Meanwhile, Mee edges out some stiff competition, primarily because he can cover at left-back. I also think he's unfortunate not to have won a single cap, given how consistent he has been at Burnley over the years. Moving into midfield, as an alternative to Ashley Westwood, Leicester City Academy graduate Hamza Chowdhury very nearly started, and he's joined by more attack-minded midfielders like Angel Gomez and Emil Smith-Rowe, who could no doubt rival Eze and Bowen for a starting berth. Out wide on the left, Dwight McNeil is the standout candidate, along with unsung Brighton star Solly March on the opposite flank. McNeil and March offer the added benefit of versatility, given that McNeil is capable of playing anywhere across the forward line, and Solly March can play out wide on either flank in a midfield 4, as part of a front 3, and even in a deeper role as a wing-back. Last but not least, and this was a tough one, as backup to Mikel Antonio and Ollie Watkins, I've gone for Southampton striker Che Adams. Signed from Birmingham City, Adams had a really difficult debut campaign at St Mary's, and he's still overshadowed by Danny Ings, but anyone who has watched the Saints so far this season will be well aware that Adams is a totally different player this season compared to last. Quick, strong, good on the ball, and relentlessly hardworking, he's still only 24, and he looks to be improving all the time. International football will be a big ask, unless Adams were to accept a call-up from Antigua or Scotland, both of whom he is eligible to represent. But among England's uncapped strikers, I think he's up there with the best of them. So that is it for my 11 and 23-man squad, but I must give quick honourable mentions to the likes of Ben Godfrey, James Tavernier, Matty Cash, Todd Cantwell, Ademola Lookman, Max Aarons, Ryan Kent, and Patrick Bamford. Of the lot, Bamford is probably the one that will cause the most disagreements in the comments, since I suspect a lot of people would take him over Che Adams, and possibly even Mikel Antonio. If you're picking him over Watkins, then I'm afraid you need a brain scan. It was a tough shout between Adams and Bamford in my eyes, but I honestly think Che Adams would score more goals in this Leeds team than Bamford, while still having the legs and application to contribute to Bielsa ball in the same way that Bamford does. With that being said, I must doff my cap to Bamford, who has done a much better job this season than I had anticipated, and he only very narrowly missed out. So that's it for today's video, but thank you all very much as ever for watching. Hit the like button if you enjoyed today's video, let me know your thoughts down below in the comments, and make sure that you are subscribed and have notifications turned on for HITC Sevens. You can also find me on Twitter or Instagram via the username @HITC Sevens on both platforms, should you wish to do so.